Our next PeaceWorker Award will be to Robert Schaible. He's been striving for peace and justice for the environment, but more recently for Israel-Palestine. As you know, he is the executive, I guess the chair of Maine Voices for Palestinian Rights. And his good friend Tina will be telling us about it.
So, I'm Tina Malcolmson, a board member of PeaceActionMaine, and I'm also a board member for Maine Voices for Palestinian Rights. And I first came to know Bob Schaible on the street during a protest against the treatment of Palestinians by the Israeli government and military. He was holding his own with great intelligence and wit. Now, I can't remember when this was, but I remember seeing him do this great job at, in a debate with a person who, to use a euphemism, did not appreciate our demonstration at the corners of Middle Street and Exchange in downtown Portland. Eventually, Bob became chair of the group Maine Voices for Palestinian Rights, working to make the Palestinian side of the conflict better known among the people of Maine, including its media and leadership. Since that time, Bob's accomplishments as a spokesperson for this cause have grown enormously. He has spoken eloquently on television and radio and published articles in the Portland Press Herald. He and Maine Voices for Palestinian Rights have established an ongoing Palestinian film festival at Space Gallery on Congress Street in Portland, soon to be in its third season. He has achieved great success as a fundraiser. He has developed a remarkably long list of co-sponsors for the events put on by MVPR, a list which demonstrates the extensive support for this issue among the religious communities and peace groups in Maine. One of his most outstanding achievements was the event on March 31st, 2011, featuring Dr. Zeldin Abulaish, the Palestinian doctor whose 3 daughters were killed by Israeli tank fire during the invasion and bombing of Gaza in 2008-2009. Dr. Abulaish has written a book called I Shall Not Hate, a Gaza doctor's journey on the road to peace and human dignity. For the event, Hannaford Hall was filled to the brim, and that's quite a large space. I sat in the balcony next to a Muslim student from USM, and we agreed through our tears that the doctor's talk was amazing. The most critical and soul-searching questions posed by the members of the audience were answered with wonderful grace by Dr. Abulaish. We all owe a great deal to Bob Schaible for putting on this event. Bob arrived in Maine in 1985 without a job, but with a determination to live in Maine, where he had often visited his closest friend from graduate school days. The University of Southern Maine recognized his great potential, and he worked there for 26 years, primarily in integrating interdisciplinary programs integrating literature and several other disciplines at Lewiston-Auburn College. He was chosen to serve as the university's Russell Chair Scholar in 2000-2002 and pursued the question, is the university failing democracy? He concluded that it was. What a surprise.
Pretty serious.
The achievement at LAC that he most values is his contribution to the creation of a new Common Core course for LAC based upon the question, how then shall we live? A curriculum that stressed active citizenship in pursuit of social and political justice. His first trip to Israel-Palestine with his wife Sally occurred late in 2009. They returned to the Middle East in May of 2012. Please join me in honoring one of the most active of the peace activists in Maine, Bob Schaible.
Thank you very much. I was at my computer one day, where I am every day for a number of hours, when the email came from Jessica saying, "Dear Bob, Peace Action Maine would like to honor you with one of their PeaceWorker of the Year awards." And I mean, I was shocked. I just never had thought about doing this work to get an award. And so I was sort of stunned. And, but then I was also thrilled. And thrilled not so much for myself as for the cause. Because I thought, you know, this is going to be another notch up of what we're trying to do here in Maine and Maine Voices for Palestinian Rights. We're trying to get more people aware of this particular problem of the Palestinians struggling for their rights. And so I thought, surely this will do it. So I want to thank the board of Peace Action Maine. I think too that the other reason I was thrilled is that it really is, getting this award is an indicator of what is happening not only in Maine but across the country and around the world. 5 to 10 years ago, it was very hard to get an audience of any size at all to talk about the Palestinians. And there were very few articles written in papers. I mean, Bill Slavic was writing them, but he was fighting a pretty lonely battle. And in the last 5 to 10 years, the awareness has begun to grow increasingly and increasingly fast. I know that things on the ground keep looking bad because Israel keeps appropriating more and more land. Don't get discouraged too much by that, because it's going to change. The world's awareness is getting there. And we no longer live in a world where colonialism and racism are just accepted the way they were 300 years ago when this country was treating American Indians in exactly the same way. We don't live in that world anymore. And Israel will not be able to continue doing this indefinitely. I believe that. Also, I'm filled with thanks. I need to thank other people. When I came up here and I began to learn something about this issue, I didn't know there were an organization. I didn't know there were people. So I need to thank, and I received this award on behalf of people like Bill Slavic and Wells Staley Mays, Ruth Elkin, Margene Bailey, and a little bit later, Nancy Aldrich. These were people who were pushing already before I even came on the scene, back when it was harder to get media attention. And so I'm very grateful to them. In fact, I was at a meeting. Ed McCarthy is another one, and I was at a free university thing on the USM campus one day, and they were dealing with stuff on the Middle East, and some guy up there was just saying what to me seemed like some very ignorant things. And I stood up and challenged him on it. And after the meeting was over, this gentleman called me aside. It was Ed, and he said, in typical Ed fashion, he said, "Would you like to be involved with a group that's really doing something, or do you just want to continue to make pronouncements in meetings?" I said, "Well, yes, I would very much like to be part of a group." So then he told me about Maine Peace and Justice in Israel-Palestine, and I feel very indebted to those people. I don't know if she's here or not, but if she's not, I hope somebody who sees her will thank her or let her know that I'm thanking her. Another person that I want to give special thanks to is Laura Somlio. Laura is one of the most faithful soldiers in the field. And if I need somebody to put up flyers or sit behind a table or to hand out things at a meeting, I can always count on Laura. Or to hold the camera for filming something. She's just so faithful about doing that, and I wanted to acknowledge it. I also want to thank and acknowledge my wife, Sally. She's sort of my partner in crime. And we put out some pretty nice brochures and flyers. She's my techie and my creative person. Sally's the one that puts together these. And the very first time she and I did something together, I was so nervous about it until she brought that flyer, put it together. And when I looked at that thing, I thought, my God, this really seems like something real. This seems like something important. You know, it's got a flyer like this for it. And she's also there to, when I get down or if I'm feeling disappointed, she'll sometimes sympathize, and other times she'll say, "Bob, you're doing an awful lot of grousing." And that kind of calls me back to getting over that. But the other thing she does is with her own Buddhist studies, she keeps reminding me and helping me feel the gentleness and the compassion that has to be part of all that we do. Otherwise, we're just becoming the same kind of nasty people inside as those people that we feel like are promoting wrong. And not that they're nasty inside, but anyway, we don't want to slip into that. We don't want to become hate-filled, and she really helps me to keep that on track. Finally, I want to thank the Palestinian people. They have been so sustaining to me, both Palestinian friends that I have in this country and friends that we've developed in our trips over to the Middle East. Now, I know this isn't true for all Palestinians. They're not all a bunch of Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts and hippies love peace and action. I mean, they're normal people. And so they have negative thoughts like everybody else. But on the whole, I would have to say that being around Palestinians as I have, they set such an example of two important things. One is steadfastness. Their word for it is samud, steadfastness. You don't get discouraged and quit. You just hang in there and you keep doing what's right. And I think I've been infected some by that wonderful attitude. And the other thing is just their gentleness of heart. They're a very gentle people. And it's so much of what I feel like my mission is to get people to know more about the Palestinians, because they're not that stereotype that so many people have of them here. They're among the most literate people in the Middle East and in the world. And they're highly educated, they are gentle, they are filmmakers, they are artists, they are engineers, they are lawyers, and people don't seem to know that, and they need to know it. So I'm thankful to them. I have to change a little bit of something, because after that wonderful statement that Tina made about the 3rd Palestinian Film Festival, I found I can only do so much, and I get worn out. And so for this year, for this 1 year, in the fall, we're not going to do the Palestinian Film Festival, because in place of it, we're going to have another big event. And I just couldn't handle 2 big events in the fall. Sally and I just couldn't do it, and with the help we get from others. So we're going to be bringing Miko Peled, who is an Israeli citizen. He's an author of a book called The General's Son. And this is a fabulous book. He's been cheered and honored all over this country and in Europe. His book is about his own struggle toward becoming a person, a Jewish Israeli, who is in solidarity with the Palestinians. And he talks about his father, who was a general, who was an officer in the 48-49 war, was a general in the 67 war. And his father had actually wanted that 67 war, because he said, if we get some of that land, then we can do real land for peace. And it was after the war was over, he discovered that, guess what? That was not the plan that the Israeli political leadership had in mind. And so he began to view things in a very different way. And this man is a marvelous speaker. He talks about, here's what you hear, here's what's the truth. Here's what you hear, here's what's the truth. But along with him, we're bringing 3 Palestinian young people. 2 of them are musicians, and they will perform for us that night. And the 3rd one, her name is Luma Shomali. She is a 19-year-old college student at Bethlehem University, and she's going to be talking that night, same night as Miko, but a much shorter talk, about how the occupation has affected her life as a college student. So we're going to have it's going to be at Hanford Hall. And so we're going to be cranking up the publicity and hoping we can come close to filling that hall again. So I hope all of you will mark it on your calendar, October 23rd. October 23rd. Now, I couldn't sit down without telling you, we've got some Palestinian olive oil back there. This stuff is good. It is organic. It is extra virgin. It is produced in northern West Bank, places like Jenin and Nablus, where farmers are really struggling to make a living. So you can really help them by buying this oil. And if you say, well, I don't, and we are prepared, we've got Square, so we could take credit cards. And if you feel like, well, I'm interested in the Palestinians, but I don't know much about it, this little book, The Origin of the Conflict, put together by Jews for Justice, it's $1. If you don't have a buck, I'll give it to you. It's only 37 pages. And you read this, and as I'm fond of saying, you're going to understand this conflict better than 95% of the American public and 99% of our politicians. They are so ignorant on this, so ignorant. And we have to educate them. So thank you, Peace Action Maine.